I'm working on the Anita Goodesign Honeycomb quilt, and I'm going to do one of the blocks that has the piecing to it so that you can see how it works. So I've got my threads, my colors all picked out. I've got my strips of fabric all picked out. I'm just going to thread my machine. The first part of this is piecing, so I'm just using a color I don't use very much in my embroidery. It's kind of a non-yellow yellow. Let me get my needle threaded. I'm doing this on the Elissimo. I'm doing the biggest honeycomb block. So because if it's octagon, it won't fit in the 8x8, so I had to put the 8x12 hoop on, and I've hooped the Floriani no-show mesh stabilizer. This is a cutaway. It's going to stay on there. I don't need fusible, so it's just a plain no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer. So the first thing, I've loaded my design. I'm going to do the honey pot that has, let me see, that's block number, I think it's 22. And I'm doing this one that has the piecing to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the placement stitch for where I'm putting the batting in. So I need to know where the batting is going to go first. So I've cut a piece of batting. It's about, excuse me, 11-inch square. And I'm going to set that down. I want to make sure that I know I'm covered on these sides. I want to make sure that, let me turn it this way, maybe it's bigger that way. I want to make sure that, because this is an octagon, that it's down past the points on both ends. And you could spray this down. I'm just going to put a couple pieces of tape, and I use the Floriani Perfection tape. Looks like this. And that's the box. And it's about $4, so it's not much, and it lasts quite a while. So I'm taping each end of my of my batting down. And now is my tack down stitch. Giving a little smoothing out because the batting isn't can be a little lumpy. I use the Warm and Natural. Get my hands out of the way. So I'm going to take my tape off because I use it again, and I'm going to trim the batting to the cutting line. And I don't want to pull up too much when I'm doing this because I don't want to loosen my my stabilizer in the hoop. And of course I'm going to try to do this without taking it out of the hoop because I'm lazy. And I might be able to and I might not. let's see. So the next stitching is going to be the base fabric placement, because the Honeypot has background fabric in the center of it. Now normally I would, because I'm going to do a bunch of these blocks, I would measure this, make sure I'm over a ½ inch on each side, and I probably would cut some blocks ahead. I've cut some blocks for the, hold on a second, there's some blocks that have no piecing, and so I've already cut my fabrics for this, but I haven't cut the fabrics for the little ones yet. So I'm just going to stick a section on, and I want to make sure that I have, because I have white on white, I want to make sure I've got the right side up. So I'm just going to, I know I should have cut it. Can you still see? Okay, okay. And again, you can spray it or you can tape it. I'm going to tape this one. And with this, you can, if you stitch over the tape, it pulls out of it real easy. So now it's going to be my tack down stitch for my background. So I'm going to trim this away. I'm just going to cut out a little square here to get the rest of it out of the way so you can see. Now, I can't remember, I don't think it says in the instructions how to trim this. Well, you're going to have other fabrics coming out all around here. So, and the first placement is going to be inside of this line that we just had. So, I'm going to trim this back to the stitching line, or close to it. I don't have to, this isn't like applique. You don't have to be exact, because there's a fabric going over the top of it. When you do the block that doesn't have any fabric piecing around it, don't trim it away, because you need a ½ inch seam all the way around for when you put these blocks together. So this doesn't trim out like a regular applique would. trying to keep my hand out of your way and do this at the same time. I don't think I'm coordinated enough. And some people will ask what scissors I use. These are what they call duckbill scissors or applique scissors. So if you're laying them flat and this is underneath, you're not going to cut into whatever's underneath. So the next thing on my list for this particular pattern is my stippling. So I just have to change my thread, and I have a 2-thread stand up. So on the right hand side I have the thread I use for just all the piecing, and I just leave that one there. So I'm just changing out this one. I have a 10-thread spool stand, but for some reason I like the 2 better. So now it's just, oh, I gotta put it back down. So now we're just going to do the stippling, and I'll start that, and then I'll come back when it's time to do the piecing, because this is going to stipple around everywhere but where the design goes in the center. Here, oh, sorry. Here's the stippling all done. It's left the spot where the design's going to go, and you can see the batting is out here. That background fabric is there. This is the design that I'm working on, and you can see on my screen it's showing me what the next piece is that's going to stitch, or what next part that's going to stitch, and that's my outline for where my fabric is going to go. The thing I want to point out is, because we have this batting on there, it's a little thicker, so I want to raise up my presser foot level. So on mine, you want to look for in your machine, because you can have a presser foot height for free motion sewing, you can have a presser foot height for regular sewing, and then a separate one for embroidery. So I'm in my embroidery one. I'm on the Elissimo, or the Elissimo Gold, so it's on page 6, and I went down here in my settings. I'm going to change this to, oh, I already changed it, see. Normally it is 1.5. I'm changing it to 2. So just so you know, when you change this, when you shut your machine off, it doesn't automatically go back. And what that's going to do, and I could go to 2.5. Let me go to 2.5. And what's going to happen is, when the presser foot comes down, it's going to ride a little higher above, because you're going to keep putting fabrics down, and I find that if I raise my presser foot height when I'm embroidering, I don't get caught up with all the different fabrics on here, which I did the first time and had quite a mess. So let's go ahead and do our first placement. Make sure, let me zoom in a little bit here for you, because I think it's going to be right there. I've changed back my thread back to my piecing thread. I'm not actually going to lay my fabric on this area that shows the outline, but it's letting me know how big I need, a big piece of fabric I need to have. So I'm going to put my fabric right side down, and I'm going to put it so that, remember you saw the 2 lines, I'm going to put it so that it's hanging over on both sides, because I always think about that 1/2 inch in case you need it, that 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I have the raw edge of my fabric on the second line of the 2 lines that are close together. And when in doubt, just give yourself extra fabric. So what it's doing is it's actually like paper piecing. It's sewing my second fabric to my first fabric. Here's my seam, so this would be my seam allowance. So now I need to fold this back, and this is where you've got to, you know, pay more attention, because you want to push this so you don't have a crease there. And put some tape on. And there'll be times you'll have a crease in there. It's not the end of the world. I'm not changing my thread because I'm just doing my piecing now. And now my screen is showing me it's going to tack this down. And I never know if it's going to go forward or backward. It's nice that it went to the other side because it gives me room there now. So let me bring the camera over so you can see what I'm going to be doing. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more. Oh, that's a little too much, I guess. Oh. There we go. So what you want to remember is what's out here towards the hoop I would leave, because you've got to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. If I didn't have another fabric going on top, I would have a 1/2 inch on these two sides as well. But I know that there's going to be a fabric here and a fabric here and so forth around. So I'm going to trim part of this back. And the reason I did is because if I leave it, sometimes it gets caught a little bit in the foot. So I don't want to be bothered with it. But I'm also going to make sure I don't get into this seam allowance. So I kind of come over on the angle. Okay, I want to make sure you can see it. And then cut away that extra. So you can see how I kind of left this just to be on the safe side that in case I need more seam allowance up here, but also it's harder to come across your hoop and try to get it straight. So I just did it that way. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And again, this is not like regular applique, so you don't have to get perfectly to the stitches. So can you see the hole? And that's how I trimmed it. Now it's going to take us back to the other side, and it's going to do the next placement. And again, I'm not changing my thread. So my placement is here, or where that fabric is going to go, so I know what size it is. And I'm going to lay my strip down, right side down, facing this fabric, because it's just like piecing. I want to make sure on this end over here I'm hanging over, because I might need, you don't know, or you're not paying enough attention to know when you're going to need that 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I just always say be on the safe side. I'm going to fold that fabric back, And tape it down. And now it's going to tack this fabric down. Oh, oh, oh. Looks like my foot came loose. That's not a good thing. And of course I'm over right next to the bar. Let's see if I can get in there. I'm going to double check that foot. Here we go. And you really should wait till your machine stops to take your tape off. I know I get a little anxious to do that sooner. So again, I'm going to, let me see if I can zoom in again. I'm going to leave this fabric because it's the seam allowance I'm going to need. And I know another fabric's going to go here, so I can trim out my fabric a little further down, and then I'm just coming out on the angle. And now it's going to do my next placement, and it's going to go around. So I will come back and record some more when we get to a point where they're going to start overlapping each other.